What's going on, everybody out there, and welcome back to another episode of the Dark Avenger comic book review series, the show where each and every episode I share my thoughts on the books I read last week. And this week, I didn't even count how many books I have for the week of March 25th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We are staying in the 20s, and I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy indeed. But before we get into this review, I talked about this on Dark Avenger Live. I do have to talk about it right here on the actual review. As you all know, because of what is going on in the world today, COVID-19, the coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, the world has honestly been put on pause. And of course, that impacts our world, the comic community world, in ways of Diamond Distributing last week announced that they will not be shipping any or distributing any more books for the foreseeable future. So mostly, they said April and the foreseeable future. So April in parentheses and the foreseeable future. And now all the comic book companies are scrambling. There were rumors that DC and Marvel were going to go digital for a little while, only at first. What's going on, Black Knight? How are you, my friend? Welcome in. You made it at the very, very beginning. Awesome. And then Marvel and DC both backed out. Today was Marvel's. Yesterday, DC backed out. Their books went from being released April 1st to the 28th. And then today, Marvel announced that they will be delaying their books, and they didn't give a date. Actually, I think DC erased the date too. So for the month of April, we more than likely will not have any more new comics for the month of April. I said any more, and I'm realizing what I'm saying. For the month of April, there'll be no new comic books. My thoughts are this is going to last at least 2 to 3 months, but I feel like Marvel and DC are really trying to push Diamond into figuring out some way to get their books distributed. And I'm sure if Marvel and DC find a way, the rest of the companies, the other independent companies, will follow suit and will be able to distribute their books as well. I think this could go on for about a month or two. I see comics starting to come back into flow around maybe June. Rumors are also that possibly Walmart's, Target's, your major vendors might actually be releasing physical copies. And if that happens, digital copies will be released as well. Again, though, I feel like the local comic shops are the ones that need to get these books more than the Walmarts and Targets. Because if I remember, and I haven't bought books from Walmart, first of all, we don't have a Walmart in Brooklyn. The closest one is near JFK. But I haven't bought comic books from a major vendor since Toys R Us. And I remember when I was a kid, they used to have those big plastic packs that had 2 stacks of comics, and I think it was like $20, and you got like 20 comic books in it. And I remember every time there was a Superman in it, I wanted that pack, even though it had absolutely nothing else Superman related. But those comics were in such bad shape, some of them. And I feel like a local comic shop, they take care of the books a bit more than like a Target or a Walmart would. I remember seeing GameStop for a while started to do comic books on those spin dials, and they didn't take very good care of their books either. And notice that we're not talking about GameStop selling comics anymore because a lot of them pulled out of that because nobody bought them. But beside the point, the way it's going to impact this series, though, is the Dark Avenger comic book review series is going to also be put on pause. With no new books coming out, there's nothing for us to review each and every week here. I say us because I review it, and I have a wonderful group of people who come in and comment about books, or we discuss it over on Comic Book Weekly, which is tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern on Comic Frontline. But because of that, this show is going to be put on pause. However, the channel is not going to be put on pause. Every Friday, I'll still be doing Dark Avenger Live, and cool news, I might actually be able to start reading some trades that I've been collecting over the course of the past couple of years and do some comic book corner reviews. So I'll still have certain videos popping up here and there. But for right now, any new reviews, obviously until new books come out, I won't be able to do any new reviews. I am very excited. I just started getting back into the 20 comics a week bracket. I'm very happy with how things are evolving. I'm glad that the channel's getting back to activity. I'm really happy that when I do live shows, I have friends like the Black Knight who'll come in and we'll have a conversation while I'm doing shows. This channel has gone through hell and back, and I'm glad to say that this channel is finally on its own up curve, but it's not a bad up curve. It's a good one. And I definitely want to keep the momentum going. Dark Avenger Nation over on Facebook, I'm trying to build that group up. I have Dark Avenger Gaming on Twitch. I'm going to really work on that, and that's going to be going through some chaotic changes very soon as well. And then there's also ShootingStarUniverse.com. I have a post I'm working on as we speak. I'm doing a written post on my thoughts on several. Actually, I have several posts I'm working on, but I'm only going to be uploading them or posting them one at a time. But I have a couple of posts I'm working on. I have a newsletter, Shooting Star Presses, which is connected to Last Ember Presses Around the Campfire. If you like to subscribe, you can go over to Last Ember Press, subscribe to Brands. My newsletter is in the description below. I have the link that'll take you to subscribe to that. And yeah, just follow me all over social media, Dark Avenger C86 across the board. Let's get through this together. Everybody stay safe, please. I want everybody to be safe. I want us all to get through this happy and all together. We've had way too many deaths as is already, and we certainly don't need any more. That being said, we're going to get into this Dark Avenger comic book review episode, 20 books. And this is the last 20 books we'll be talking about for at least a month. Let's hope that by May, my birthday month, we'll be back to some type of a norm. But I agree that not just the comic book world, but the entire world after this outbreak is never, a lot of people are like, oh, the comic book industry is never going to be the same. It's not going to be the same as it was 3 weeks ago. It's true, but the whole world is not going to be the same as it was a month ago. So I expected nothing less. So I'm hoping that with this change, whatever it is, we'll all come through it and we will adapt and move forward and get stronger for it. Hopefully, with this new, with all these tests and everything, we'll be able to have a cure for the coronavirus and we won't even have to worry about another outbreak. Let's keep our fingers crossed and everybody just stay home, stay safe. We got another 30 days of quarantine. It's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming from my channel and from everywhere. So this week, March 25th, 2020, 20 books. And we're going to start off with a book I have never reviewed, but I read the first issue and I absolutely loved the first issue. Man OWar issue #1. Now, I've read XO from Valiant before. I was way behind Michael. Michael was reviewing it, and I remember at the time I was reading another different 20 types of books. So I never had a chance to really catch up to where Mike was. And I don't even think I really read much of the previous volume. But Man OWar issue #1, I liked it. You don't have to be completely knowledgeable. I mean, you need to know who Eric is. And I'm sure that anyone who goes into XO, knowing the character, you'll know that's all you need to know. Eric is basically still being Man OWar. He's still saving the day here, there, and everywhere. But then when he's not being Man OWar, he's just an average guy living on the streets, taking care of, playing with kids, taking care of neighborhoods, whatever. But nobody likes him. And this kind of does a little bit connect to what has gone on in the past in the Valiant universe. So while you don't have to know everything at the same time, if you did read the previous volumes, it will give you a little bit of a head start on people who are newer to the book. But I feel like I came in not reading the previous volume, and I pretty much understand what's going on. So there's this mother who can't stand Eric. She's like, you need to really get away from this. We don't need you. You're really more of a problem than you are help. You really should move on. And there's a part where he's hungry, so he goes, she's his suit. Most of the conversations between him and his suit, and there's like a point where he's hungry, and the suit's like, yeah, but you need money for food. He's like, no, I don't. And he goes hunting, and he ends up hunting a deer, and he only eats a little bit of it. He brings it back to the neighborhood where he's staying at, and then he ends up giving most of the deer away to the homeless. And while he's doing all this superheroing, he ends up stopping a car that was stolen, being chased by the police, and it turns out the car wasn't stolen. They were trying to get away from this attack that was going on in the city that XO was fighting. And what ends up happening is XO realizes one of the kids, the police, apparently in the Valiant universe, police are very trigger happy, and Eric protects the kids and disarms the police officers and says, hey, what's going on? These are kids, I don't know how he got out of that situation, but he ended up throwing the mother's car in the river. And the book kind of ends. Well, there's also something else going on in the background. I won't spoil that because the book ends with that also. But it ends up, he goes to the mother and says, I'm sorry, I threw your car in the water. And the mother doesn't care because she saw that he actually protected her child, and she's like, "You're staying with us from now on. You get the room in the back, and you can work on fixing the car, and this and that, and that's how it's going to be." And I like how the boy's like, "You can't argue with her. Just accept it. Once she walks away, you can't convince her otherwise." And then in the end, there's another threat that comes in, and this is where the cliffhanger is. Exo might have a new problem to deal with, and we'll talk about that whenever Man OWar issue 2 comes out. But Man OWar really did surprise me. Bang issue number 2. This is another series that surprised me. I read Bang issue number 1, which gave me the 007 feel. It was an agent. In the past, it was not sound. This is the way the book was. It looked like a James Bond agent, and he was killed. Fast forward to current day, it's a new agent. I would say he reminds me a little bit of maybe Will Smith, and he has the same name. And then he's sent after this guy, and he doesn't know why. And he goes in, and it turns out that this guy is a writer, and he writes books. And it turns out that this agent is one of the books he's written. And now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, wait a minute. So this guy's stories are coming to life or something? And you're left questioning. With Bang issue 2, anyone who's a Bruce Willis fan might like this. It's got a very deep, die-hard feel, except this guy, he takes in like this, like a vape or something, and it gives him some type of a boost or a power or whatever. And it opens up with him telling a story to a train, to somebody on a train that he's riding with. Then he gets attacked on the train and ends up, escaping the attack. But then he comes face to face with the guy from the previous issue, and he's like, "You're needed. We need to talk." This was a surprise series for me. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did. I actually didn't realize I did order Bang issue number 1, so I ordered Bang issue number 2 physically as well. This is a really good series. I liked it a lot. It surprised me. And I like how every book is a different character from if you grew up in the 90s or in the 80s. I'm excited to see what's coming next. I'm purposely not reading previews just so that I don't know what the next book is about. Obviously, this is a 5-issue mini, so by the 5th issue, I'm sure they're all going to come together, but I'm sure that we're going to get at least one more book where we're going to be introduced to another character, maybe 2, and then the 5th issue will be like the big grand finale. I don't know, but very interesting stuff. Another book that I was excited for ever since it was announced, Transformers versus Terminator, issue number 1. So apparently Skynet wants to survive. And in this world, Skynet, on this Earth, there are Transformers. So unlike the Terminator universe that we're used to, this universe fought against Transformers as well. And Skynet's about to be taken down by the Decepticons. So they send back one of the Terminators to go back in time to when the Autobots and Decepticons first arrived on Earth. And it's funny because he bumps into Sarah Connor and he forces her to take him to the volcano where the spaceship originally lands. And what happens is he ends up right smack dab in the middle of when the Decepticons and Autobots show up on Earth. Sarah Connor is completely and utterly lost. I think the Terminator was hilarious in this book. At first, I didn't think it was the Terminator that was Arnold Schwarzenegger, but when Sarah Connor's like, I'm stolen by some German dude, it's like, oh, it is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, then. Artwork for all the books I just talked about, by the way, is amazing. This book was really good as well. I'm excited to see so what Skynet's directive here is they want to destroy the Autobots or something. He got scanned. When they scanned the cars to take their alt form, they scanned the Terminator 2. So he's like, they scanned me. So now they've scanned Skynet in as well. So I think that in scanning him with the truck, now the Terminator is also connected to the Transformers in some way. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And it's sad that this is the first issue and already we're going to be put on a hiatus. But it was really good. Definitely something I would say to check out if you're a Terminator fan, if you're a Transformer fan, and not dialogue heavy yet, because we didn't really see too much of the Transformers. We saw them in the future and we saw them a little bit in the present, but they didn't talk much in the present. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Amazing Spider-Man issue 42 was a origin. Now, I had no idea who that monster was at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 41. Went crazy trying to figure out who it was. Turns out that it's a new character completely. I misunderstood and thought it was a completely different character I saw in a trade preview. But this issue, to sum it up really quickly, is a recap or an origin of this character who was a pet for this alien child who got lost in space, then got refound, then his owner ended up being killed because there was some type of a space war, and the mother gave him the piece of the tablet and told him to protect it no matter what, and he ended up landing on Earth, and that's where we go back to present day where he's fighting Spider-Man. Yeah, this was an origin. So, I mean, last Spider-Man book for a while, but anyway, it was a good. I thought it was a nice issue. Moving on, we got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue number 49. Jason and the rest of the Power Rangers go off to face the Omega Blue Ranger. And I love how she's like, you know what? We don't have to. There's a little dialogue in between. I'm going to skip all that and say, she's like, you know what? There doesn't have to be a fight. We can end this peacefully. Give up your coins, give up being Power Rangers. Just go back to leading normal lives, and everything will be fine. No more Power Rangers, basically. And of course, Trini, Zach, and the other Rangers show up as well, and they're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. They morph. There becomes a big fight. They bring in the Omegazords. Tommy ends up refighting the red dog. I forgot his name. And things don't go so well there. He's still pretty powerful. And now it looks like with all the prisoners that the Omega Blue Ranger freed, and honestly, the Omega Blue Ranger is actually turning into her own version of Draken, her own version of a monster. And I love how her dialogue literally is, if I have to be a monster to keep peace in the universe, then I'll be a monster. And it's like, wow. So you're willingly, okay. I honestly, especially with the way the character was a while back and the way we see her in the Go-Go series right now, I'm surprised that she took such a turn so quick. I mean, I guess it's one of those characters that she could fall either way, and she just fell towards the dark side. And in the end, the Omegazords get taken down by all the prisoners she freed, and it looks like Trini's in a bunch of trouble. And I don't know what's going to happen next, but now Lord Zed was captured by the Omega Rangers. My wonder is, will Lord Zed somehow be the red herring that kind of assists the Rangers in finishing this fight with the Omega Blue Ranger? I don't know, but already the timeline has changed to the fact now that the Omega Rangers are in the Ranger universe. I don't know if they'll stick around after this arc, but it would be cool. I mean, if Go-Go Power Rangers is ending, this might be a chance for, if they're going to want to do a second series, they could do an Omega Power Ranger series following Jason, Trini, and Zach, and whoever gets brought in as a Blue Ranger, and possibly Ranger Slayer, because Ranger Slayer's in this arc as well. Maybe she'll become Omega Pink. We don't know. I'm throwing out this is all spitballing ideas at this point. But yeah, just popping in to say hello. I'm in between work meetings right now. Oh, Jesse, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate you popping in, even for a second, even if you're not here right now as I'm reading your comment. Thank you so much, my friend, for popping in. Hopefully everything is safe. I know Florida right now, things are getting hit pretty hard, so hopefully you're staying safe at work and you're staying safe in general. And hopefully you come back later and share your thoughts on any of the books I'm talking about here. But definitely, man, stay safe. Thank you for popping in for however long you can or have. But yeah, I could see an Omega Ranger series. I truly and honestly could. I'd pick it up. I would. And I love how Boom Studios realized that a lot of people like the chromium covers. And now they're making like a chromium variant for all the Ranger comics moving forward. So sorry, I couldn't help it. I really liked them, but I didn't think it was going to be an ongoing thing. Again, then it becomes, if the story's been amazing so far. Story stays great, it doesn't matter. But if the story goes really, really far south, then even chromium covers won't get me to physically buy Power Rangers. And also, I feel like it kind of does take away from the special feeling, like, the uniqueness of the Chrome. I mean, they were only supposed to do this for this arc, and then they were supposed to stop. I feel like it's taking away the uniqueness, but I don't know if the arc's going to be over yet by the time we get to whenever 3 or 4 months from this current issue. I can't say 3 or 4 months from now because the month of April, nothing's coming out. Ghostbusters year 1, issue number 3. I almost said year 3. Year 1, issue number 3. And it's all about Peter Venkman. Opens up with the reporter once again interviewing a bunch of people. She interviews, when she interviewed Walter Peck, he's like, why are you here? Why are you interviewing me of all people? I have a busy schedule, yada, yada. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then Dana Barrett, she interviewed Dana Barrett. And then Janine, she interviewed. And then Tully, she interviewed. And it's funny how each one of them has like a unique thing to say, but they all say kind of the same thing, that he's very combative, doesn't really drop facts. And when things are going south, he usually deflects to something. And she ends up in the meeting with him. They end up talking, and she starts to go a little too deep, and he deflects. He's like, let me tell you about this story. And again, we get another flashback to the Ghostbusters ghostbusting a nightclub that has a ghost that is forcing the people to stay and forcing them to dance. And Ray actually gets caught up in that, and that's actually in the thumbnail. And they saved the day. It was actually pretty cut and dry, situation. Bring him in. And this must have been before Winston, because it's only the 3 of them. Unless Winston was somewhere else at the moment. But they saved the day, danced the night away, and honestly, as the reporter ends up leaving with more questions than she did when she initially met Peter. And again, I'm enjoying this year 1. I'm glad I decided to pick it up physically. I'm just sad that we're not going to get the Egon issue at least for another couple of months because everything is on pause. But we have one more book to go, and I feel like this is leading to something. The year 1 is definitely leading into something, and it also takes place. I know, and I think I mentioned this when I reviewed the other books. I think this is taking place it is taking place between the first movie and the second, because you got Peter talking about being a talk show host. You had Ray talking about his bookstore. So I really feel like this is like the segue between the two movies. What will happen after this mini? We'll have to wait and see. Marvel Avengers Black Widow issue number 1. Again, just like Captain America last week, this is an origin for Black Widow. Also, her own story where she's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. She's defected. She's no longer assassin or a work for hire. She is working with S.H.I.E.L.D. She ends up training with this man who we later finds out is somebody else. We'll talk about that at the end of the book. And then there is a prison break. And it turns out the man that she was training with was the one that caused the prison break. But Nick Fury knew that Black Widow also took the job. And she explains to him, yeah, I took, and the guy ends up escaping narrowly, but Black Widow ends up one-upping him because she doesn't teach him everything she knows, and vice versa. So he ends up getting away. Black Widow explains she wasn't going to free everybody in the prison. There was one prisoner, an old man who can't do any harm to anybody anymore, who is just old, and she wants him to live out the rest of his days. And it's the person that basically taught her ballet, who trained her and everything. And that was it. She wasn't looking to free or cause anyone else to escape. And of course, Nick Fury, being the man he is, ends up allowing her to let him go. He goes and leads his new life for whatever amount of time he has left. Fast forward to the present, Taskmaster was the man that was her trainer and that she trained as well. And he's back. And this is all leading into the Avenger game. So again, really excited to see the Avenger game. And this was a really nice one-shot. Again, not something you have to read, not something that's a must, but it's still nice to add to the actual game when it comes out. And it's nice to flesh out your characters in video games because this is a different universe from the main Marvel universe. So it's always nice to have a little bit of, if there's extra or something different in your character, it's always nice to flesh it out. X-Men Fantastic Four, issue number 3. Franklin does not want to go home. His father and mother are there. The Fantastic Four show up. The X-Men show up. And I love how they fight again the X-Men and Fantastic Four, and they're going to take the Fantastic Four back to Krakoa for a trial because they invaded Krakoa without without being permitted on the island. So for trespassing. And what happens is Doom shows up and says, "Look, we have the kids. We have your Marauders also." And Kitty Pryde ends up gets into a fight with Magneto because she made a decision that was representing the people, and Magneto's like, Kitty Pryde doesn't, represent mutant kind. She's not one of our heads. And she's like, look, I had to make a decision, and I did. And they end up going to the kids, and Franklin, Reed's like, let's go home. We'll figure this out. And unfortunately, Franklin doesn't trust his father anymore. He's like, no, if Doom can fix me, I want him to fix me. I want him to help me reach my potential again. Also popping in to say hi really quick. What's up, Brant? Thank you for popping in and saying hi really quick. I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All the pop-ins and all the hellos are welcome no matter what. I know I'm doing this at a very weird time. I was busy earlier. I have Comic Book Weekly tonight. We have Comic Book Weekly tonight, so it's like literally this is smack dab in between two things that I'm doing. And then after this, I have a few other things I have to do before Comic Book Weekly. So I'm sorry for anyone who's watching this post live. It's a really weird time this time. Usually I do these around 2, 3 o'clock. Now I'm doing this one around 4. It's already 4:30. So apologies. And we'll talk about this at the end of the show, but we're going to talk about doing this live versus doing it as video. We'll talk about it at the end. Let's finish this. So in the end, they're told they have to stay where they are. They're not allowed to interfere or go into the village and mess with the villagers. Of course, the X-Men don't listen. Doom catches them, and that's where we get to see the Doom Sentinels that we saw at the end of the last issue, and now they're attacking the X-Men. To be continued, or to be concluded, actually. The next issue is the last issue. So very interested in seeing what happens with this book, but I think that it's going to end up with Franklin going back with the Fantastic Four. I could be wrong. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but this is impacting both Fantastic Four and X-Men regardless. So, Immortal Hulk issue number 33. I have been reading Immortal Hulk. I didn't like it at first. I didn't like the horror approach to it. Then I got back into it because I was interested in the story. This issue is also the legacy numbering. Yes, Marvel apparently is still doing it, and I noticed it on my Ghost Spider issue today. Marvel is still doing the big number for the volume and then the little legacy number, so when it hits a 50th or 100th, they have an excuse to make it a $5 book. Maybe, maybe not. And I'm not judging them for that because DC's done it for action and detective. It's just what the companies do at this point, and that's why they keep the legacy numbers around. So I'm not knocking it. I actually did get a physical copy of this book. I got a variant physical copy of this book because Hulk has been manipulated for a long, long, long time. Basically, this entire series, I believe, if I'm understanding the inference correctly. But the one part inside that hasn't been messed with or hasn't been reached out to is World War Hulk and the main Hulk. There's two different art styles in this book. There's the main one, and then when they're in Bruce Banner's mind, and that art was kind of 50-50 for me. So we have the original Hulk, Hulk Smash, and World War Hulk in Bruce Banner's head, and they're the only ones that aren't being affected by the mind control or whatever. And in the mind, the way they're depicting it is Bruce Banner's a kid, and he's watching TV, and the TV actually has this person on it. And Hulk gets angry, and he smashes the TV. And then the TV ends up becoming a portal. And Hulk ends up coming through. And what happens is one of the most... Okay, I've seen a lot of Hulk transformations in this series, Immortal Hulk. Now, we all know the standard transformation. Immortal Hulk takes the transformations to a whole other level. This transformation definitely is one of the top 5, possibly. Top 5 what, however, I don't know. But basically, Hulk erupts out of Bruce Banner, and apparently he is in control. And he's explaining to everybody what's going on, and he's like, I'm Hulk. There's only one Hulk. You puny humans aren't understanding. I'm like, oh my God, it's so nice to hear like that Hulk. I haven't heard that Hulk in so long. Especially with everything that Marvel put the Hulk through. that it's actually really nice to hear that Hulk again. And deep down inside, call it, the fan of the Hulk in me. I would love that Hulk to come back again for a run. I would kill for that. But anyway, they end up attacking. I forget the white guy's name who's attacking him. He keeps calling him white monster or white Bigfoot or whatever. But they end up attacking. The white psychic, whatever his name is, ends up killing the person who was using him to begin with to control the Hulk. And we find out that there's this gigantic thing going on in the background that none of us have realized until we get to the end of the book. And that is that Rick Jones isn't really Rick Jones. I'm cutting all the fighting part off. You got to read this book. Really good. It's a $5 book, but there's a lot of really good action in here. A lot of Hulk smash, a lot of really good Hulk dialogue. But actually, you do see World War Hulk pop out briefly when he's fighting the psychic, because he's trying to reach into Hulk's mind. And I love how Hulk's like, oh, it's okay. There's somebody waiting for you just underneath. And you see him coming through the eyes, and then he erupts outside of Hulk's body. And he turns into World War Hulk for a moment and takes out the psychic. And Rick's like, we won. Go ahead. You can walk off. No, he's like, yeah, Rick's friend. Rick, I trust Rick. I'm going to go. And he walks away, and it turns out that Rick is being controlled. If you've seen the thumbnail for Comic Book Weekly, you already know Rick is being controlled by the leader. Leader's coming back, and I believe this is the last part to Immortal Hulk. This is the last arc part to Immortal Hulk. Very interested in seeing what the leader has in store for Hulk. And I don't know if he's already possibly somewhere deep in Hulk's psyche somewhere. It is going to be a very interesting read when it comes back. Books of Magic, issue number 18. We finally get to the grand finale of the dream fighting. We finally get through it. He finally gets brave enough to fight against I forgot what the demon is. Basically his darker side. And his darker side is like, you're not going to, you don't want to get rid of me. That's why you haven't been able to beat me yet. And he's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I haven't been able to beat you yet. But it's not because he doesn't want to. It's because it's hard to explain, because I understand what he's saying, but Tim knows that it's a part of what, what's inside of him. So he wants to have all of him with him. He doesn't want to lose a piece of himself like he did that time when he was in that world where it took all of his bad memories away. So in the end, Tim comes up with a really smart plan where he has one of the books of magic in this dreamverse with him. He writes something down and sends his teacher back to the awake world. And what happens is he ends up fighting, like I said, his darker version of himself. And then he pulls a twist of fate. And on the book, it says wake up or door. I forgot what it was. It was either wake up or way out or whatever, or help me. It was help me. And then a door opens up and it takes him out of his dream state and back into the world, into the awake world. And it traps the darker part back inside of him and traps it away basically forever. That was a really good. It was good. This series from now DC Dark Label instead. Well, the Sandman universe, still considered the Sandman universe. This is my favorite series out of the Sandman universe. I'm really, truly enjoying it a lot, and I definitely recommend it. There's 3 volumes of this out now. This will be either the 3rd or 4th. Definitely something to look into for sure. Batman Superman issue number 8, the finale to Kandor being reborn. It opens up with a flashback to Zod's father talking to Zod about Kandor. And apparently the whole family, the whole Zod family comes from Kandor. So he has a deep attachment to Kandor. And then we jump back to the present where the Kandorians are now completely batshit crazy and attacking everyone, Superman, Zod alike. And then you also have Ra's al Ghul who's trying to kill them. Batman trying to stop Ra's al Ghul from killing the Kandorians. They want to try to save them. And then Zod ends up finding a way to bring them all back into Kandor. But then Ra's al Ghul attacks the bottled city and tries to kill them all. Superman ends up taking the bottled city and taking it to save them. So I guess this is their way. They always find a way I knew when Bendis killed the bottled city of Kandor, they were going to find a way to bring him back. And the Lazarus Pit was that. However, after a huge fight between Zod and Ra's al Ghul, and he tells Batman to tell Superman to stay away from his planet, we'll keep the peace treaty, whatever. We find out that Superman has put all of Kandor into stasis because they're still suffering the effects of the Lazarus Pit. But it's only half the population. Zod created a second replica bottled city of Kandor and put the other half of the population in that bottled city. And he took it back with him to his planet to give to his son and tell his son the story just like his father before him. But he has to find a way to bring them back, which I'm sure he did through the Lazarus Pit again, and then put them into stasis like Superman did in order to keep them safe. So now there are 2 bottled cities of Kandor with the population split in half. We all know what's going to happen eventually, and it's all going to come back united. But wow, all this for a peace treaty that I don't think is really true. I believe that while it is true, it's held true in the Legion of Superhero books that this is what happened. As soon as new writers come on board with Superman, that can be written off in a moment. So I wouldn't be too surprised if somehow, some way, Kandor will be reunited completely and be only under Superman's protection again. When and how, I don't know, but I feel like that's going to end up happening at some point. Going now into Detective Comics 1021, we are in the heat of it all with the Two-Face Church of Two-Face or the Gospel of Two-Face, whatever. But what happens is he ends up flipping his coin, and because of the gunshot to his head, if it lands on heads without the scratches, Harvey Dent completely takes 100% control of himself again. And he gets control, and he's in this church, and he's like, just protect Gotham, do what you got to do, keep everything safe. He kind of flips the script, and everybody's questioning, like, are you okay, Two-Face? What's going on? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. He sneaks away, and Batman is now doing the detective work to try to figure out what's going on and why Two-Face is doing what he's doing. I'm going to skip all the detective work and get right to where he's leaving the Batcave, and there's Harvey Dent going, Bruce, I need your help. And he still promises that he's the only one that knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. So a lot of people know Bruce is Batman. Deathstroke knows Bruce is Batman. Now, Harvey knows Bruce is Batman, but not Two-Face, not his darker half, just Harvey knows it. I hope we're not going for another reveal here, but I don't think we are. But anyway, he explains to Bruce what's going on, and Bruce is like, you have to go back to Arkham. You need to be checked out. That's the only place where you can be safe. He's like, yeah, take me. And then Bruce, now knowing about the church, also says, we're going to make a pit stop first, which I think is going to be Batman's mistake, because he ends up going to the church to find out more about it. And that's where Harvey ends up smashing his head in the Batmobile to try to save Bruce. He ends up kind of knocking himself out and bringing Two-Face back. And long story short, it looks like Batman is now at the mercy of the Church of Two-Face, because Two-Face comes back and ends up knocking Batman out. What's going to happen next? I don't know, but I know that the next issue also says that Joker's coming to town. So whatever the next issue is, it's going to be the grand finale, because then we're going to get into the Joker War, which I'm very excited for. I actually found a way to get Nightwing issue number 70, which I'm happy I ended up finding a Nightwing 70. And I really want to be on top of this event in Batman, because it looks very, very interesting, with Joker not only knowing where everybody is, but it looks like he knows all their identities also. So I really want to see where Joker goes with this one. So, and then Flash issue 752. This one was kind of interesting because it felt like a quick read for me, even though it wasn't. So Godspeed is at the mercy of Paradox, and Barry is, at first we think Barry's dead. I knew he wasn't dead. It turns out, long story short, his mother shows him this beautiful world, and there's the Flash Museum, and all the Flashes are there, and, he could stop running finally. He can give up being Flash, and he can live out the rest of his life happy. And he's like, that sounds great, but this isn't real. Every universe has a vibration. This one has none. And he figures out really quick that he's in a fake world that Paradox basically stuck him in like a stasis to keep him locked away. He breaks free from it and finds out he's on this weird alien world that slowly is killing him. So he ends up making this armor to protect himself. But now the only person that could kill Paradox is Reverse Flash. And where can Barry go to find Reverse Flash? He looks all across, he creates his computer and he looks all across the multiverse and he sees all these places where he gets killed. But he's like, there's always one place I know I can go to get Zoom. And that's where Zoom ended up killing his mother, or the Reverse Flash ended up killing his mother. And that's where he's running with the treadmill. The last time that happened, we have Flashpoint. Obviously, we're not going to have Flashpoint again. He even references the Flashpoint, but I think he's going to find him in order to stop Paradox. What's going to happen next? I don't know. It's going to be a while before we find out, too. Giant says XMen Nightcrawler's one-shot. Not much of Nightcrawler. Not much at all. They end up going back to the old mansion, the X-Mansion. And it turns out that I don't know the race of these like spider creatures, but they've ended up taking up home in the old X-Mansion. And they're there because there were reports of things going on. And it turns out at first we think that Rachel's there, and I forgot the other mutant they see, but they think that they're alive. They're not. They're actually illusions. But there is a mutant that was trapped in the school. However, Cypher using Warlock was able to talk with the aliens and say, look, we'll let you guys live here. Let us take our person home. And that was that. That was a Nightcrawler one-shot. The only parts that I feel were really deep for Nightcrawler were when he was chasing Rachel. And it wasn't Rachel to begin with anyway. So the point of this book, I don't know. Wolverine issue number 2. So Wolverine was taken over by this mutant. We still don't know who she is. And he ended up killing Jean, killing everyone. We saw that at the end of the last issue. He ends up back on. Now, here's my problem. First problem, and it's right at the beginning of the book. He ends up back on Krakoa, being healed by Krakoa. Why? Wolverine has a healing factor. Whatever he was in should have been healed already. Why did he have to be brought to Krakoa and have Krakoa heal him? He has a healing factor. That was the first part that I didn't get. Then the second part was this police officer who is also on the case against these people on the black market, selling these mutants on the black market, and how it killed 2 of his detectives. And now Wolverine promises Cyclops, he's going to find out who did this and make them pay because he killed Jean. But Jean's being resurrected, so it's okay now, apparently. And long story short, their paths cross, and Wolverine teams up with this detective to find this mutant and bring her to, not bring her to justice, basically, to kill her. And they get on a boat. They start heading towards a place where they think this mutant is. And it turns out all along Wolverine was still under her mind control. And he ends up possibly killing the detective. And that's where it's to be continued. Not joking. That's the entirety of this book, was Wolverine being mind controlled, swearing to Cyclops he's going to find the person who made him do that and make them pay. Detective loses detectives, loses other officers, swears he's gonna make the woman pay. Hates mutants, by the way. I forgot to mention this detective hates mutants, but his daughter said that they have the cure for her, possibly. So she needs, not to hate them so much. Teams up with Wolverine. Wolverine then gets taken over, or was always taken over psychically. I don't know. I really don't know. We'll have to see where this book goes. I'm really hoping it gets better from here, but this second issue did not give me that much hope. X-Men issue number 9, The Brood. This had a lot of action. It had Gladiator, a Kid Gladiator, fighting the Accuser, and fighting against the Kree who don't belong in his space, and they're there for the King Egg, and the X-Men bring the Brood crashing down. There was some really funny back and forth dialogue, but they're there with the King Egg, taking the Brood away from Earth and away from Krakoa more specifically. And lots of really awesome action scenes happen. And then the ending, I think, was the funniest. They brought Brood along with them. And what does Brood do with a King Egg? He ends up getting hungry and eating it. Is Brood the possible new king to the Brood? more than likely, I'm sure there were a lot of charts, and especially there were a lot of charts at the end of the book where it explained more about the king egg. I was not going to sit there and do all that reading about the king egg. So I didn't read it yet. I probably will before the next issue. I mean, hey, I have a bunch of time now before the next issue comes out. I might actually read those last 2 pages at least, but classic Jonathan Hickman with a bunch of text, bunch of charts. Gotta love it. But this is a good action-packed issue regardless, with the X-Men fighting the Brood, Gladiator coming in. Kid Gladiator is like, Dad, I'll forgive you for, ruining our one day that we were supposed to spend together where you don't deal with anything if you kick this guy's ass. And he does. And I loved it. That was one of my favorite lines of the book. Unfortunately, didn't make my panels of the week because a book that's not on here, but I'll be talking about it exclusively on Comic Book Weekly, is Suicide Squad issue number 4. Caught up and actually might be getting Suicide Squad physically. The emus panels, that page was hilarious and deserved panel of one of my top 5 panels, which you can also go vote on right now on comicfrontline.com. But yeah, so Suicide Squad took that panel away from X-Men this week, but X-Men is still a really good book. Hellions issue number 1, where we all know the Goblin Queen, not the Goblin Queen, I forgot what her name was, but anyway, she's back and she gets seen at the very end of the book. But we find out who the Hellions are and why they are. So Havoc and Nightcrawler and Wolverine are on a mission to stop the Hellfire Gang, I think they're called, or the Hellfire. They're basically like the Young Hellfire Club. They hate mutants. And it's this big truck with a bunch of weapons in it. I love the B cover. Black Knight, you're going to die laughing. That's the cover I have for this issue. For this issue of Suicide Squad, that's funny. Because if it is for this issue, the B covers. Out of all of the Suicide Squads, there's only 4 books right now. Issue 2 and issue 4, I think I got the B covers for. I like the shark one for 3, I think it was. And then the very first one, I just want the regular cover because it's the regular cover. But I agree, the B covers are amazing. And I was going to get Justice League Dark because they brought the Rot in. I might still get the recent 2 issues. Their B covers are very good as well. Clayton Crane. I would recommend checking those out too, Black Knight, if you're interested. Those covers look really. I might still buy them just for their covers alone. But Hellions. So we find out that Havoc kind of loses it and he puts 2 humans in the hospital and almost kills another one. And so he's brought to the Circle of Judgment along with a bunch of other mutants who've done horrible things. I'm going to put it this way. This is basically a darker team than X-Force. This is X-Men Suicide Squad, basically, because each one of them were supposed to be sent to the pits of Krakoa, basically the prison of Krakoa. And each one of them has done horrific things, except for Havoc, who apparently snapped, and he said he's still not right. So I guess this is referencing back to when his mind, when he turned dark and he was somehow saved and he stayed dark. So for some reason, Havoc thinks that he's still not right, and Cyclops is pissed off that his brother's even there and that nobody told him and that his brother's even being judged. But because of that, Mr. Sinister comes up with an idea to make his own X-Men Suicide Squad. And what happens is the Hellions are born, and Cyclops actually asks Psylocke to lead the team so this way she can keep an eye on Havoc and also to protect Havoc. And they're sent on their first mission, which is actually to one of Sinister's old harvesting grounds. And that's where they're going to be meeting with the person we know who's going to be debuting in the book very, very soon. I like the premise of this. I like a Suicide Squad premise for X-Men. And the way they put Havoc in there, very interesting. And is he going to have more breaks? Is he going to snap? What's wrong with Havoc, actually? Is there still something wrong with Havoc, or did he just snap at that moment? I don't know. But I'm very interested to see. And hopefully him being on this team, because these are mutants, they all look like rejects. The only characters in this book that I'm actually interested in are Havoc and Psylocke, and obviously who they're going up against. If not for Havoc and Psylocke, I might not be coming back for issue 2. But because I'm interested enough, in knowing where this team is going to go. And it's an interesting Suicide Squad approach to X-Men. I might stick around for a while and see what goes on. Star Wars Bounty Hunters issue number 2. No Boba Fett in this one. Just in a very brief camera. But anyway, we get a little bit more of a backstory on how Lash and the bounty hunter in this book met and how he ended up working with her. He ended up saving this child from stormtroopers, and she ends up saving him because she knew that there were going to be reinforcements. And she said, I once was that child and nobody was brave enough to stand up for me, but you were, and they ended up teaming up. But now he's still hurt by her betrayal. And Dr. Aphra apparently goes to the person whose son was killed to get more information because she wants to go after Lash. There's somebody that's following the bounty hunter in this book to find Lash before him. And then he comes face to face in the end of the issue with one of his former teammates. And that's leading into the fight in issue 3. And that's the cover. That's a huge abbreviated version. This is a good book. This is something. And I don't even mind Dr. Aphra. I know. I can't believe I'm saying that. I might read Dr. Aphra issue number 1. Did they change her in some way? Because I remember everybody hated her for a while. So I might try out Dr. Aphra and see, but I probably won't like it. More than likely, I'm swaying towards I won't. But if she's part of Bounty Hunters, she's fine in this book. I'm okay with it. Star Wars has been surprising me left and right. Bounty Hunters is not something I even was thinking of picking up. And here I am picking it up. All because I liked the B cover. And here we are. I'm enjoying the series. And it's something I think everybody should check out. By the way, art in all of these books so far that I've talked about. Amazing. Loved it all. I love the art for all the books, period. Let me put it that way. Very few things that I did not like art-wise this week. Batman Curse of the White Knight, issue number 8, the finale. Batman versus Azrael. Nightwing trying so hard to knock some sense into Batman and say, Batman doesn't kill. Batman doesn't use guns. If you're going to finish this, if you're going to finish Azrael, finish it as Batman. And he does. The big fight, Azrael gets away, threatens to drown the city. So everybody has to go to the reservoir to stop him from, drowning the city. And the final fight, where it's just a sword fight, it ends up with Batman coming out on top. It looks like he actually is going to kill Azrael, but then he ends up saving him. And, the threats, put to rest. And Bruce Wayne surrenders himself. And I love how Harley is about to help break him out, like not let him go to jail. And he's like, no, you can't do this. I'm not Joker. I have to go, do my time. And Harley lets him go do his time. And I thought it was important. And then the ending, which I believe is leading into the third volume of this series, he ends up face to face with Jason Todd. He wants Jason Todd as his warden or whatever, and I'm interested. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to go on. I mean, now the world doesn't have Batman. Bruce Wayne has given all of his fortune and his company away to the lower. First, he gave it to all the Napier funds, and he wants to dissolve it into the middle and low class. In Gotham to build them up. I'm very interested in seeing where Volume 3 is going to go now. And there's rumors that these one-shots we're going to be getting, Nightwing and Batgirl and stuff, are all going to be like the segue in between Arc 2 and 3. And I'm going to be getting all the one-shots because I'm interested in seeing what happens right after this, and I'm interested in seeing where they're going to go with Volume 3. This is a great series. I really, truly enjoy it. Sean Murphy just knocked it out of the park. With both first volume and second. If you missed it, get Batman White Knight and Curse of the White Knight in trades. You will not be sorry. This was a great series. And then my book of the week, and yeah, I'm spoiling it now, is my book of the week. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 104 to date. And this actually is proof when you have a really good comic series, when a book is able to continually top itself every single time. And I don't mean every single issue. Not every single issue has topped itself. But as the series goes on, there is a book down the line that actually tops my favorite book from the series. My favorite book from the series so far was 100. 104 has now topped issue 100 with the mutanimals, basically you have a mutiny. And she's like, you're not, the mutanimals are no longer welcome in mutant town or whatever. You're no longer welcome here. So take your people and leave. And they end up leaving. And the little ferret kids end up being saved. And they stay with Jennica and the others. And I love how it almost was a fight, but it ends up with Hob leaving. He's like, okay, whatever, we're done. I love how Hob is still a freaking coward, but anyway, they end up leaving, and that's where we find out that Donatello's back. He's in the shelter cleaning up with April. Raphael's sitting out back, and Jennica comes out, and Jennica was amazing in this entire issue. But she tells Raph, go in and talk with your brother. You haven't seen him in forever. And he's like, yeah, but I don't want to hear the whole, why did you leave? We should all get back together, yada, yada. She's like, she says a few things to him, and then she ends up just telling Donatello that his brother's out back. There were so many touching moments in this book. I can't touch on all of them with all of you. Too many touching moments. Read this book. You should be into this series. This is an amazing turtle series. This is my #1 now favorite comic series that comes out each and every month. It only was topped by Superman, and unfortunately Superman got knocked way down. I'm not even reading Superman right now. So this is my #1 favorite series, and I recommend it. I know that Bavarian actually is buying the trades and trade paperbacking her way up to present-day Turtles. No one that I've recommended this series to has come back to me and said they didn't like it. Try the first volume of TMNT. It's written only by Tom Waltz. I think Tom Waltz wrote the first 3 or 4 arcs alone. And then Kevin Eastman jumped in, and now Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz together are writing the Turtle series. So it's double great. You have the creator and a writer who really knows the Turtles. I feel like this writer actually feels the Turtle series writing it. So they end up deciding they're going back to reunite in New Hampshire with Mikey and Leo, and the Turtles are going to get back together. And they do. They get back together. Mikey finds his lost cat, and they just start to bond again, and then they have this huge family powwow, so to speak. And they, first of all, they realize they have to go back, and in memory of Splinter, they decide in Mutant Town they're going to open up their own dojo. They're going to teach the mutants how to defend themselves, and they're going to do it all in their father's name. And they're still going to be heroes, of course, whenever the world or New York need them. So they go to this pole that has all their bandanas still on it. Jennica obviously had to make her own, but we see that at the end of the book. And I love how Shredder is still watching over all of them. He's still watching them from a distance. I wonder if he took the cat away and then brought the cat back, and that's what helped them rebond. I don't know if he's pulling strings from behind, but the Turtles are back. They move into Mutant Town. They start fixing up their place. They bring Jennica in, by the way, during this family meeting also. They bring Jennica in as one of their own, and they're going to teach her, and then she's going to be one of their... Basically, she becomes their big sister, because at the towards the end of the book, she actually references herself as their the sister. And they're fixing up the place, and then it turns out there's a concert. And Mikey's like, we couldn't go out in public before because there were no mutants. We couldn't do this. We always had to hide, and we never got to experience life like the way everyone else does. Now there's Mutant Town, we can. And slowly they convince the other 3 Turtles, yeah, let's go to this heavy metal get together. So they all dress up, and that's another panel I shared. That's my #1 favorite panel of the week also. And they go to this nightclub, and it ends with Jennica turning to them going, are you ready for what's next? And I feel like that's a nod to the Turtles because they're back, but that's also a nod to us, the reader, saying, are you ready for what's going to happen next? Because now the Turtles are back. Now there's Mutant Town. Now there's so many other things going on. Are you ready for what's next? And the answer is yes. I am super excited. I'm happy we got Jennica with the Turtles. I'm really liking this miniseries we're getting with Jennica. I know issue 2 came out, everybody, by the way. Unfortunately, once again, digitally, the review copy was not there. So I'm waiting for my physical copy. So unfortunately, unless I get my physical copies, well, actually, I will be getting my physical copies this or next week. The review for Jennica issue number 2 will probably be during a Dark Avenger Live. I do know issue 2 came out. I unfortunately did not get a chance to get it digitally, but I did buy it physically. It is coming. It will be here. And then I will review it. Promise. So until then, though, I can't review that. And until then, that is it for this review. That is the end of all new comic books coming out for at the very least, the next month. That being said, this review is going to be going on a pause until things are back to normal. However, like I mentioned, Dark Avenger Live is still going to be going on. I'm working on doing some Comic Book Corner videos, so definitely stay tuned to that. Join the Dark Avenger Nation on Facebook. We'll talk comic books on there. We'll talk about news. I drop news every time I hear news. I've been dropping it on the Nation, as well as Mike Spider Slayer's Comic Book Corner 2.0 Webheads Unite group on Facebook. I drop every time I hear news, or every time we talk about news in our group, I share it in my group, in Mike's group, and I'm trying to make sure everybody's up to date with what's going on. I would love to do some more live streams on there, and I will. Things have just been all over the place and back again. I am working on more streams for Dark Avenger Gaming. I'm working on a couple of posts for Shooting Star Universe, so all that's still going to be happening. I also might have a special series I'm doing on here. I'm not going to announce it because I don't have it yet. If I get it in, I will. I'd also like to mention I am excuse me, I am working on a giveaway, and the next item of the giveaway actually just arrived today. So look forward to seeing what that next item is on Dark Avenger Live this Friday. AEW Aftershock was canceled this week due to multiple reasons. We will hopefully be back next week to doing that. Comic Book Weekly will be going on this week. We'll be doing it next week. And AEW Aftershock, pending if AEW happens this week, which I believe it still is. I'm not sure. I believe Florida's on a very heavy lockdown for the next 2 weeks, which means there might not be AEW this week. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. But I am working on a lot of different things for the channel while we are in quarantine, so definitely stick around. I will. This will be the last time we do this live. That's the last thing. I was trying to remember what the last thing I want to talk about. The Dark Avenger comic book review, as well as any other series on this channel, is always meant to be made as a video. I talked about this on Dark Avenger Live. I'm going to mention it here. There will be special occasions, such as this one, where I will do a Dark Avenger comic book review live, but 95% of the time, this is going to be a video series that I then premiere, and I'll be in the comments. The only reason I've been doing this live for the past 3 weeks is 3 weeks ago, I was super late. 2 weeks ago was when the coronavirus started to impact everybody. And then this week, it's the last week. And again, this is the last week for new comic books as well. When comic books start coming back and this review starts coming back, it will be in video form. Anything on this channel will be in video form unless it's a special live show or Dark Avenger Live. That's what makes Dark Avenger Live or the random live shows I do on this channel unique. And that's why I want to keep those as a live streaming format and this series as a video format. So while I do love talking comic books live with everybody, that's something I also do over on Comic Book Weekly. So this is going to be the last time I do this series live, unless for a special occasion. And there will be several special occasions, I'm sure. But Dark Avenger Live is that show once a week where I want to do on here live. And I do have a few video series I'm working on, a few videos, not series, videos I'm working on while we're in quarantine to keep everybody entertained, both live and not live. But that's why I just wanted to let everybody know why this series is not going to continue as a live show, because it was a live show for a very long time as well. There's a reason. I want to keep Dark Avenger Live's special feel, the only live show on the channel, or one of the only live shows on the channel. And the comic review always works better as a video. I can put in my little edits, my little bouncy words and stuff like that. And I enjoy doing that. It takes a little bit of extra time in editing and in putting all this stuff in, but I love the way the review looks when I put all those little edits in. So that's why the show is not going to be a live show format moving forward. Again, everybody take care of yourselves. Make sure you're safe, healthy, stay inside as much as possible unless you have to go out 6 feet apart from each other. So practice social distancing for now. It's not hard to stay at home. You have video games, you have Netflix, you have a bunch of things you can do in the comfort of your own house. If you have to go to work, be careful, be safe, come home, wash your hands, wash your body, keep yourself clean, and let's beat this virus. Let's fight to get that June 1st date so that this way the world can start to go back to, I want to say normal, but life will never be normal again, but back to as normal as it can be. You know, let's normalize life again. But yeah, don't go out unless you have to. And just stay clean and stay safe and stay healthy. I don't want to see anybody I know, anything happen to anybody. I love all of you. I say that, and I know everybody on YouTube says that to their viewers. I know every actor, every singer out there is saying it to their fans, that they love them. And, I love all you guys. And I don't want to hear, oh, XYZ ended up dying from this thing, or, that person that did those videos you like, he ended up dying because he came into contact with somebody, or somebody came into contact with him and he had the virus and this person died. I don't want that to happen. I already know a few people who've had the virus in other states, and knock wood, they're getting better now. I don't want to see anybody I care about die. And I care about all of you. So please do it for me. Stay home, relax, keep your kids inside. There are kids that are now dying from this disease. The worst of all, you don't want to see a child die. And we had our first child death last night in New York, and it's killing me. It's killing me because I'd rather it get you really sick and then you survive. Death is not. Death and me don't go well. And as you all know, my father passed away at the beginning of this year, so I'm already trying to recover from that. And now all this is happening, and I don't want to see a lot of people die, and I don't want, especially anyone I know, to die. So please keep yourself safe, keep others safe, and keep your children safe. And that's the most important thing, because I love you guys. I don't want to see anything happen. And I already see thousands of people are dying. These are thousands of people that didn't have to die. And if better choices were made, maybe they wouldn't have died. But let's try to keep the death toll down to as low as possible. All right. That being said, see you tonight on Frontline. I will see you tonight on Frontline Black Knight. I will see you there in a few hours. Till then, everybody, take care. Keep reading. Keep collecting. And I will hopefully see you all really soon on the next one. Take care, everybody. It's a double take care for a reason.